you feel it? Can you feel it? You just listen to this music, and immediately your Monday blues are starting to lift. Immediately. That's the power of song. That's what it does. It's just uplifting. Welcome to the Big Monday stream. Of course you didn't. You probably just woke up too. The Big Monday stream. I'm Warren. Hi. How's everybody doing? Hope you're having a lovely start to your week. Hopefully it is devoid of frustrations and you know, bad things. Gonna be a good one. Yeah. It's Monday, and but you know, we can reminisce about the weekend. Hope everyone had a lovely couple of days off. You know, in my case, in my particular case, I am 4 days away from vacation from the shoot job. And as much as I love my work and what I do, don't get me wrong here, it's always nice to take some time away to. It's always nice to have some time to recharge, to regroup, to just get away from the people you see every day. You know, I love, you know, coworkers, am I right? That's all. Sometimes you just need a little break, and then you come back, and then you realize, like, oh, I missed you guys. Ah, okay, this is cool. You know, and then you have to go through the piles of email in your inbox. I'm not thinking about that now. I'm thinking about the great vacation I'm going to have. But even before the vacation time that is upcoming for me, before we even get there, we're going to have ourselves a stream here tonight. Oh, I've got some spicy stuff here lined up for you all. This is not going to be a this ain't going to be one of those humdrum streams. No. Let me tell you what. Yeah. I ended up watching Obsession this weekend. I got around to watching the Obsession film, which is quite good, pretty excellent, in fact. I really like Curry. What's his name? Barker, Curry Barker, right? It's Barker. I liked his short films that he'd do on YouTube. I particularly liked the milk and cereal one. Cereal as in SERIAL, right? As in serial killer, which is exactly what you think the short is about. Not a short film. I thought it was very, very good. I thought it was very, very good. Extremely talented guy. Brilliant piece of work. I was very cool. You know, directed the whole thing, and then, you know, when at the credits at the end, you know, shows up and he's like, he's the guy who edited it too. You know, no other like editing credits. He's just the guy that slapped it all together. I have a deep appreciation for that kind of stuff. Anyway, it was excellent. I went in pretty blind, and I think that helps too. I went in really, really blind. I knew it was something about I knew it was something about relationships, right? And I knew like it was modern day relationships, right, with the kids. And I knew that the main crux was a crazy girlfriend, but I didn't know. I didn't know what the twist was. I didn't know what the actual premise was. Is that, you know, she didn't choose to be the way she was, infatuated with Bear, who is one of the most unlikable protagonists. And I mean, he's meant to be that way, right? It's not in a sense where it's like, oh, I can't get into the movie because, you know, the main character is so unlikable, you know. He's meant to be like absolutely the most irredeemable piece of shit, right? It's a fantastic film. It really is. Some really cool shots. I think my favorite shot was, I think it's the first time she goes to his house at night after, you know, after she becomes obsessed, let's put it that way. And he doesn't let her in, right? She's standing at the door, and like in the half moonlight, in the half darkness, I should say. And you can just see like the whites of her eyes sort of, but in a gloom, you know? And it's not like, what I really liked about the shot is that they didn't work at making the white of her eyes pop out, right? It was just like the way the shot was lit, you could just make the outline a little bit of her face and whatnot, and it's not as if the white of her eyes was popping out, but it was just like gray enough to stand out against the dark, and it made it even creepier. Like a lesser filmmaker, how about this? A lesser filmmaker would have just gone in, probably in post, right, and just like, you know, cranked up the white, you know, zoomed in on the, you know, focused on that area, cranked up the white, you know, taking down all the mid-tones, just going like full on, stark white, you know, because it's like, it's spooky, you know, kind of thing. That was my favorite scene of the film. In a film that has multiple very good films. But I'm gonna tell you, that Bear kid, he can go fly a kite. Well, not anymore. Didn't feel bad about it. No, you know, there's only one person you're meant to feel bad for in the movie. There's one person that you have to be rooting for in this movie. And it's ostensibly the villain. But the roles are reversed. It's not as clear cut. The protagonist is actually the antagonist and vice versa. Clever script. Well done. Good job by all. Felicitations. So watch that. And Exit 8, which is based on a video game. It's the story of a guy who is trying to get out of a subway station. That was fun. That was all right. I enjoyed it. Had a good heart to it. You know, like there's some movies that are, you know, you're looking at it and you're like, you know, this isn't great and this doesn't make sense and so on. But there's like so much heart to it that you're like, it's all right. All right. It's fine. I get it. It's all right. It's okay. Let's stick with it type of thing, you know, because it's trying to do something. It's trying to tell something, and it's doing it in a very earnest way. You can feel that. Like, okay, all right. This film is trying to, this Exit 8 film is trying to communicate something to me, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the message I was trying to say. Yeah, you know, like the crux of the movie Exit 8, if you don't know what it is, and you haven't heard of the video game, is you're in a subway station. Well, because this is the video game, but the main character is in a subway station. He gets lost, and he ends up in this section of the subway where you keep looping around in the same area over and over again. And the only way to escape is to spot the differences, the anomalies every time you pass a certain threshold in the section of tunnel. So every time he goes back, it's always the same set. It's always like the same posters, the same doors, same number of doors, the same vents, and whatever. So the thing is that whenever you see something that's anomalous, you backtrack, you go back to the start of the threshold, and then that counts as you getting closer to exit 8, to the eighth exit, essentially. So you got to go through 7 steps before you get to the 8th. So that's the gimmick. And there's a couple of instances there where there's weird shit happening, right? And I'm like, just okay, turn around. Turn around, buddy. Like, don't stay there and gawk at it. Just make a 180 and go back on the, fucking rats with, ears growing out of them and mouths and eyeballs start falling from the ceiling at somebody. All right, I'm turning around. That's all. That's all you have to do there, pal. Some of them are a little more subtle. Some of the anomalies, you're like, oh, we didn't see that. Oh, I didn't see it either, type of thing. But the fucking rats with, body parts growing out of them. Yeah, no, I think that's anomalous. You can turn around. But it had a good heart. It had a good heart. It had a good message. Do you have any doubts about Avengers Doomsday now that the trailer is out? Listen. I came to a realization today when Kevin Feige, I don't even know how to pronounce the dude's name. Head of Marvel, right? That guy comes out with a straight face and he tells the world, listen, I'm gonna, he comes out. He comes out with a straight face, right? And he says, look, I don't know how to put together a Blade movie starring Mahershala Ali. He says, like, straight up, that's what he says. And he says, I failed in doing that. I'm like, yes, you have. Yes, you are putting together much more convoluted, moronic, stupid movies in your dopey cinematic universe. And the one movie that I think everyone was in universal agreement was not only a good idea to revisit, but had the perfect leading man for it in Mahershala Ali. He flat out said, it's not happening. So how does this, how did this relate? How does this relate to the Doomsday movie? Marvel is officially a creatively washed studio because they're clearly out of ideas. They don't know how to handle fucking slam dunks like rebooting Blade. Okay, they're unable to figure that out, and the all they can do is like, well, we got to bring Robert Downey Jr. back and Chris Evans too. These are the only things we can do now because we're absolutely 100% creatively bankrupt. I don't know, man. I am not excited for this. I am not excited at the idea of the Doomsday. Everyone was going crazy going, oh, Professor X and Loki's with Magneto. Oh my gosh, Shang-Chi and fucking Gambit. I'm like, Shang-Chi. Someone made me realize today that the Shang-Chi movie was released 5 years ago. It's nuts. Like, it's really nuts. It's, you know, it's not a, you know, I'm not a high-powered studio executive, but Jesus Christ, it seems to me I can tell when exhaustion is real and people are actually looking for something fresh to sink their teeth into. Yes, this was a reference to Blade, starring Mahershala Ali. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name right as well. And he was so good as Copperhead in the, which one was it? Was it in Luke Cage? Copperhead was in Luke Cage, right? The Netflix series, right? He was very good as Copperhead. Like, he's a great actor. And you just put a fucking sword in his hand, give him some cool shades, and then like, how are you overthinking a movie about killing vampires? Diamondback. Okay, yes. Okay. Was it Diamondback or, hang on, was it Diamondback or Copperhead? Look, it was it Diamondback? It's one of the snakes. It's one of the snakes. I don't think it was Diamondback. It feels like it was Copperhead. I feel it's Copperhead. I think DGMC is trying to troll me here. No, it was not Solidus Snake either. Movies can't be movies anymore. Like Supergirl has to be a multi-$100 million hit and to be a guiding light to the future of feminism with Jason Momoa. Yeah, I was having this discussion the other day. Like, movies now have to be a moral. There has to be a moral finite aspect to art in general these days, which is preposterous. Cottonmouth, thank you, Josiah. Nice to see you. By the way, welcome to the chat, and yes, welcome to the digs, to the Windows 95 digs. That was right. Cottonmouth was the name. Yes, that was it. That was it. Pedro the Fifth, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. It's been 97. I still haven't watched it. I have to resub. I have to resub because I unsub to Disney. I think I talked about this. When there's nothing interesting, I unsub. And you know, this might be sacrilegious, but X-Men 97 is not a resub to Disney situation for me. Daredevil is. I think the Daredevil Born Again show is great. I'm looking forward to the X-Files reboot. That's going to be a resub. If they ever do more with the Muppet Show, that's another resub for me. So then maybe when that happens, I'll be like, okay, let's watch the X-Men then. As a how you doing, JD? Welcome to the chat. As a non-comic book guy, the Hollywood obsession with these fucking universes has gotten insufferable, tiresome a decade ago. I agree, though. Everything has to be a universe. Everything has to be interconnected. It is fucking exhausting, and that's one of the things also that plagues these DC movies as well. That's why I'm so happy. You know what? You know, maybe not this weekend, but over the course of next week, I'm gonna go see the Odyssey, and I'm very excited for the Odyssey because I'm excited to see an epic. I'm excited to see a long-form epic adventure. That's what I'm looking for, and that will have a beginning and will have an end, and you know, it will live on its own, and you know, I won't need, you know, Odysseus 2. Odysseus 2, The Return of the Golden Fleece. No, that's Ulysses. Well, anyway, you know what I'm talking. You know. Maggie O'Kenna, by the way, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Also, Maggie is a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. I need you to start thinking with Marvel how we think of WWE. Its number go up economy, and every movie has to be a safe worldwide $300 million hit. Oh, I know. WWE has been trying to be Marvel for years. They've been trying to do that for years upon years upon years. This is not a new model for them. They actually have like the money to try and do it, but they're also cheap. They're cheap fucks. DJ Convoy, nice to see you, by the way. Welcome to the chat. Also a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. Carlos, Sports and Things shows. Nice to see you. Welcome. And Mr. Antox as well. Can number go up, economy crash and end? It's unsustainable. I mean, it's unsustainable. The growth economy cannot be sustained. Capitalism is a mistake. That's not true. I'm not taking a firm political position here. I think that's just common sense. Right? Isn't it just common sense? An economy of growth cannot be sustainable. I mean, we had figured this out in the 90s. I had done protests in that regard. Like at some point, there's just no more room to grow. There is a ceiling on everything. Anyway. The old Captain America should be putting over the new Captain America. The new Captain America. Well, hang on a second. You know, when the old Cap comes in and he's a draw, do you really have him put over the new guy? I don't know. The Universal Monster shared thing, yeah, that sounded absolutely dreadful. That really was. That was desperate. I'm so glad the Dracula movie failed out. All right. Rory Starks, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. New Cap X-Pac. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far, but he hasn't, like, who's he beaten? You know, like, he hasn't beaten anyone. They haven't given it, like, I don't think he's been properly pushed, quite frankly. New Cap. I don't think they've given him, like, the right push. Like, he beat Red Hulk? Like, who cares, right? Red Hulk? Who gives a shit? You know, I would have, bring back Thanos. Invisible Man movie. It's made? What one was that? Not the one with what's her face, which is actually really terrific. Anyway. There's one like Invisible Man movie that is really, really good. Yeah, okay, that's it. The Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss. Is it that one we're talking about? Ah, that one's terrific. That movie is terrific. That was supposed to be part of the dopey Monster Universe, Universal Monsters universe. Because that movie is really good. A hell of a tense film. Elizabeth Moss is terrific. That was great stuff. My ears are fucked lately, so my hearing may be off, but are you listening to a rave version of the natural disasters theme? No, but you know what? It's not far off. Now I probably won't be able to unhear that moving forward. Patrick, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Red Hulk smashed 10,000 cars and never drew a dime. And I mean, that's pretty accurate too. And nothing but truths there. If I remember correctly, that Invisible Man film was originally connected, but then disconnected once Depp got recast and his version of the project died. Oh, okay. Interesting. Interesting. I didn't know that. Travis, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Also, member of the channel. Hey, what's going on? I'm going to tell you what's going on. Pro wrestling. That's what's going on this Monday, this mundane Monday. We are gonna get back into the swing of things now. We're gonna start talking about pro wrestling now, if y'all don't mind. Even if you do mind. So what's been going on? Well, hey, the G1 Climax 36 daily coverage is underway. Started back this weekend. There was 2 shows, ergo 2 extra bits of audio content and video from your boy, covering this weekend's shows in Sapporo, and we will be back tomorrow to do some more of that tasty G1 stuff. So if you're into it, if you want to follow the G1, whether you want to compare my notes with yours or you just want to follow from far away, I'm your Huckleberry. I'll be doing the G1 coverage the entire way through, so sit back, relax, and let Warren drive the car. Let Warren take the wheel. What else? So that's going on. So but I mean it. Subscribe if subscribe if you want to. Oh, next week, next Monday, there will not be a live stream as we will be off the heels of an AEW pay-per-view. So I will be most likely back from Montreal at that point, and I will be recording that my review for AEW Redemption, and it will be available per usual. First and foremost, early access to members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. So if you want to get in on that immediately next Monday, you know what to do. You hit the join button. You show Warren a little love. You say, here's a couple of buckaroos, and then you'll have access to that before all the schleps do. So how about that? So yeah, so that's coming up. Just in a couple of days. I will be live there in attendance. I'm driving over to Montreal for that, so I'll be there live in attendance. And so the review you'll be getting will be one from On Location. Now, I hear Maya World has been booked for a match against my favorite wrestler, Hikaru Shida. Expect me fully to not give a star rating to that match specifically. It's giving, it's creating a lot of attention, creating a lot of discourse. I need a viral moment is what people keep telling me. You need a viral moment. You should say something viral so that you'll get viral, and then people will, and I'm like, okay, maybe this is it. In Maya World match coming up, maybe I should just not rate it and see what happens. See what happens. You never know. So I've got that. So next Monday essentially is like, mark your calendars. No live stream. There won't be a live stream, but there will be a full review of AEW Redemption, as per consumed live at the Bell Center in ye olde Montreal. Warren becomes online grifter confirmed. I'm this close, pal. I'm this close. What else we got? AEW Dynamite review is also. Oh, hey, and speaking of reviews, well, look, I don't want to neglect the Dynamite review, but the Dynamite review, I do it every week, every Thursday here on the channel, on your favorite podcast application. Of course, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast is available on audio only now moving forward. It's no longer on the YouTube channel. We've been doing that for a couple of weeks. So there's that. But here's the thing. When we're talking about review, I reviewed the first episode of Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling's Mayhem, which aired last week on last Thursday, Wednesday at midnight, on the TSN2 here in Canada. I believe it's available the day after on my AEW, regardless of where you are in the world. But I didn't check, so you can absolutely fact check that. Yeah, and that was a show. The long and short, and look, it's one of my shorter reviews, right? It's a shorter review. Congratulations to me, because the show is about 45 minutes. So I was like, I can't do a 2-hour review on a 45-minute show, and I didn't. But look, the long and short of it is it's a very well-made, competent, professional modern North American professional wrestling show that I am not compelled to watch. Again, it just exists. It's extremely plain, and I give my full thoughts on why that is in the review. So you are more than welcome to give that a listen as well. So lots of content coming out of the Warren Hayes factory these days. I'm just churning them out as if I had a crew of Serbians working at creating all this content day in, day out. Why did I say Serbians? I don't know. I feel like I feel like I didn't have to go down that route. I don't know why. Yeah, let's quick cut to Jacques. Cut to Jacques. Quick.
I'm Jacques Moliere. Just let
He's my emergency button. You get into trouble. Play Jacques. He'll get out of anything. Ooh yeah. MLP is a cromulent wrestling show for Honor Club subscribers who want a second weekly Ring of Honor show. That's a terrific description, actually. Slam Hub Wrestling, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Why am I always this early? It's 5:30 a.m. for me because you got to get up and meet the day. Come on, charge. I'm sorry. I appreciate you coming here nonetheless. It's funny here. Convoy pulls up. Tell AEW fans that they have no critical thinking skills and proceed from there. How prophetic. Because let's take a look at our docket here. Here we go. This is what we got here. And in the opener tonight is directly related to that statement. I don't know. I mean, maybe not many of you, hang out all that much on the internet and whatnot, but I wanted to address this outside of like usual typical, back and forth and wrestling drama. I know sometimes I do talk about it, but there's a lot of times, most of the time, the stuff that happens on the internet, you're like, it can stay there. It's just, people arguing with each other on Twitter and I'm like, fuck it. It's just never mind. And it's not interesting to talk about. But this, I feel compelled to talk about it because it connects to something that I feel very passionately about, and that is criticism in general, specifically wrestling criticism here. And it comes from Brian Alvarez, who is a figurehead of wrestling criticism. And on the Wrestling Observer Radio last week, or Wrestling Observer Live, I think. I don't remember which one. He had a little segment that they clipped and decided to put on the internet to get people to react to it. In regards to the criticism that is levied, that he levies onto AEW, which a lot of people generally think is unfair, and these people are, well, I'd say a non-negligible portion of those individuals are diehard AEW fans, right? Who stick up for the promotion. It is what it is. I'm not necessarily a fan of that either, but it is what it is. But there are people like myself who listen to what Brian has to say and sort of slap my head against my forehead, wondering, what is he talking about? Why does he not watch the show, and so on and so forth? And I think sometimes there's valid criticisms, and I didn't like how we approached this. It's essential. We're going to listen to the clip just to get the full context. But essentially, here's the clip of Brian Alvarez basically explaining why, not why, but responding to the criticism that he's been receiving recently.
The show was not good. This was a badly booked show, okay?
Okay, and he's talking about last Wednesday's Dynamite, which, by the way, if you listen to my review, I was annoyed, okay? Thought the wrestling was good. Again, if you watch if you listen to my review, I thought there was an overwhelming amount of segments and backstage segments and vignettes and all that. And that really got to it really chewed to my enjoyment of the show. Despite the fact that the wrestling was good, loved Kenny's promo. I thought it was tremendous. I even, I praised it, said that it's probably the best Kenny's ever done. But I did not like the show. But as you can tell here, Brian, he didn't care for it at all.
Yes, there was some good wrestling on it.
Right. We agree.
This place has so much more potential than they've achieved.
He's talking about AEW, just to be clear. He's not talking about, MGM Music Hall in Boston.
They underperform. Yes, I realize they are the number 2 promotion. I realize that they've come to a point where they're the second biggest promotion there's ever been. I realize that, okay?
Do you?
They are distantly behind WWE.
Now, you can ask yourself, what exactly does he mean when he says distantly behind WWE? Does he mean creatively, or does he mean financially? Or does he mean the R word? No, not that R word, ratings.
Their television tapings do half a WWE house show. Guys,
here we go.
Guys, my point is, this shouldn't happen. There is no reason that they shouldn't be significantly bigger than they are right now. Look at the talent this place has.
Of course, he's already losing me at this point. He's already losing me. How bigger does he want them to be? Like, how bigger does he want AEW to be before he starts taking them seriously, or whatever? Abandons this vision here? Like, this is a company that has a multi-$100 million deal with one of the biggest broadcast companies in the world, in Warner Bros. Discovery. They're on 2 different networks. They're making millions of money hand over fist. Like, I don't understand. I'm struggling here.
Look at their roster.
Yes.
They've got national television.
Greatest, I think at this point, it's inarguable. The greatest professional wrestling roster ever assembled is this 2025 to 2026 AEW roster. I challenge anyone to go down in history and break it down and try to find a comparison for me. I challenge.
They've got Max. They've got everything they need.
He didn't mean MJF, he meant HBO Max, but they do have also MJF.
To be so much bigger than they are. But you guys that are diehards won't criticize.
So again, they have the potential, they have the roster, they have the talent, they have the media deal, they have the streaming deal, but they could be so much bigger. What?
You white knight, you hero worship, you say it's all great, there's nothing wrong with it. Brian's the problem. Brian needs an edible.
Who is this straw man he's going after, by the way? Who is the... I know there are people out... Look, I know because I come across them on Blue Sky. And if you hang out there, you know exactly, the types, and you've probably even a couple of usernames have popped into your mind. There's a couple of people for whom AEW can do nothing wrong, right? Some community leaders are like that as well. It's a straw man argument. He's creating this person to be angry at this point. Because I don't know about you, but I hang out in environments where people are very heavily critical of AEW, yet tune in every Wednesday and are like, hey, you know what? This was a pretty good wrestling show. I would have done this differently, and this kind of stunk, but this was great, type of thing. Convoy.
They're going to stay where they are forever.
Forever? They're going to stay where they are forever unless they follow my simple plan. Brian Alvarez's 5 tricks to running a global multi-billion-dollar wrestling promotion that is the only way that can compete with WWE.
Going to stay where they are forever unless people are like, I'm not going to stand for this shit. Like, what's going on?
Could you be any more vague? Brian, is it possible for you to be any more vague? Could you be more vague?
Why is it so hard to promote things? Why is it
What is he talking? I don't know what he's talking about here. Why is it so hard to promote things? Why is it so hard? This card, what was the only things that were not promoted on this card were the Death Riders and Cage and Cope, right? Cage and Darby Allin and Kyle Fletcher versus Commander, right? Those were not announced outside of the same day, right? The only matches going in the only things that we knew going in were the Kenny Omega dealio, the 6-women main event, and the Andrade match. Is that it?
So hard to tell us what happened on another show.
Hang on. Wait. Let's listen to that again, uninterrupted, just really quick.
Promote things. Why is it so hard to tell us what happened on another show?
Why did he pick this Dynamite out of all of them to say, why is it so hard to promote what was going on in another show? They fucking did that all evening and it got on my nerves. They promoted what happened last week. They promoted what happened on Collision a couple of nights before, and then they're like, on Collision coming up on Saturday. I don't understand. I legitimately do not understand what he's going on.
What the is going on?
And my question exactly, Brian.
Like, if you wanted to just stay at this level, a distant number 2, then just keep kissing his ass and talking about how fucking great this is.
A distant number 2. WWE is a billion-dollar media company. It's above a wrestling promotion. It's been around for 50 fucking years. It has built itself to this point. It is an unfathomably huge corporation. This company here, this AEW gimmick here, hasn't even been around a full 10 years. Hasn't been around 10 years. And nonetheless, has one of the biggest media deals for a wrestling company in the history of the sport. The only company that has had bigger media deals is World Wrestling Entertainment. It's a company that produces millions of dollars in revenue every fucking year. It has a huge roster. It runs venues. It's a traveling brand that goes and promotes shows internationally. What is this distant second we keep talking about? And what, anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
But the guy will listen to criticism if you give honest criticism about what the fuck is going on.
Still, I'm not quite sure what he's mad at.
So anyway, I'm irritated.
I can tell, but I think I think it's about to come here.
This show was terrible, and I have to listen to people telling me how great it was.
It wasn't, like, objectively was not terrible, though. I like, there's something here to skew as well, where I think Brian Alvarez is burnt out on wrestling. I think I've said this before, and I'm going to say this, and this is not, I'm not even trying to be bad faith. I hope I'm not coming across as bad faith. But I really want to underscore, this is not a bad faith remark that I'm about to produce here. I hope, I would like Brian Alvarez to take a break, to just, go away for an extended period of time, not 2 weeks. Go away for 6 months. Don't watch any fucking pro wrestling. Don't watch any. Watch some prestige TVs. Go watch the fucking Odyssey. Turn on some. Watch Invincible on Amazon Prime. Watch some really, really good stuff, and then come back rejuvenated, refreshed. And I think it would do you the world of good. Or here's another thing that I highly recommend. Stop watching the wrestling you don't like. I stopped watching WWE. I promise you, it is good for your mental health. It is tremendous for your mental health. To not stop watching WWE, stop watching things you do not like. Now, I understand that he has a business model that is dependent on him watching different types of wrestling. But is it just me, or is Brian Alvarez, at least for a few months now, he's only been watching WWE and AEW? It's not as if he's diving into new uncharted waters. He's not watching New Japan these days. He's not watching Stardom. He's not watching Osaka Pro. He's not watching Arena Mexico on Friday nights. You know what I mean? Like, he's not watching Arena Coliseo on Saturdays. He's not even watching Triple A. He's burnt out. I think that's also part of the equation here, but that's a gut feeling. It's an instinct more than anything else. But I would highly recommend that Brian just take a long break and come back rejuvenated and refreshed. I think he needs it.
It wasn't great. Guys, you know who wants AEW to beat WWE? Me.
Okay, and here's the thing. And no, I'm getting ahead of myself. But keep this in mind. I'm getting ahead of myself because I do have a spiel coming up. I do have a spiel. And I'm getting ahead of myself. Just keep that in mind. You know who wants AEW to beat WWE?
And they ain't nowhere close. And when I try to point out all of these fucking annoying things that hold back growth, I am the one that gets yelled at. That's irritating. I didn't book Hangman on the show 18 hours before and then not mention on Dynamite.
He showed up on Collision and he said, hey, you know what? I'll be back at some point. And like, he literally said, I love to plant seeds. He's planting. That's what Hangman did. He came out and he planted some seeds to say, I want the national title, the international title, the TNT title. Like, he couldn't have been more literal. I'm a gardener. I like to plant seeds. What am I doing? I'm coming out here. I'm cutting a promo, planting seeds.
I had fucking nothing to do with that. I just brought it up. So anyway, irritating. Sure. Irritating show. And the response was even more irritating from so many people. The show...
Okay. Yeah, I want to get there we go. Irritating. Give me a second. I'm going to close the window right here because my neighbors are out and I feel like they're pretty noisy and I think the kids are coming into the mic. Give me just a quick second. Here, do one of those. Okay. All right, we're back at it. Okay. Hey, Matt Miller, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Member of the Mr. Warren Hayes show on top of that. Nice to see you. So let's talk about this a little more. So he put out this response to the heat that he's been getting from AEW fans. And he opens up with something, like I said, that I actually agree with. It's okay to criticize AEW. Everything is open to criticism. My only problem is that my problem isn't that he's being critical. It's the reason why he's being critical. You can criticize the criticism, right? Of course you can. Because buried in this clip is the real tell. And he says it, paraphrasing slightly, he wants AEW to beat WWE. That's what he said, right? Yeah, nobody wants who, nobody wants, you know who wants AEW to beat WWE? Me. And that's it. That's the whole thing. That's my problem. And I think that's also what's irritating people, whether they can articulate it or not. Beat WWE. I asked the question earlier, what does that even mean? Is it to sign $1 billion media rights deal? Is it to sign a $1 billion deal to hold shows in Saudi Arabia? Is it to win a weekly wrestling war or draw more than them on pay-per-view, which is pretty simple because WWE doesn't do pay-per-view anymore? But look, I don't think that's what most of us regular, well-balanced, normal fans want. I want AEW to be successful doing what AEW does, which is to be a real wrestling alternative to the mainstream product. Not that AEW is not mainstream, but WWE much more prevalent, much more encompassing. And they've already done it. That's the thing. AEW has already established itself as the alternative and as a true popular TV alternative. And that's the measure, I think. I don't even buy that Brian actually wants what he's saying he wants. His favorite promotion is WWE, okay? It hasn't always been that way, but it's been that way for a while. And this is a line he uses because it lets him frame AEW, as losing, which then justifies whatever laundry list of changes he wants them to make, as precise or ambiguous as they can be. It also happens to inoculate him against accusations of bias. My analysis is honest, right? It's like, I want them to win, you see? I want them to win. So I'm not biased. This is Monday Night Wars brain. And it has been a poison on wrestling discourse for a long time. It's the same mindset that helped sink WCW and helped sink TNA as well. Regardless of the amount of lies all the carnies told you on the Dark Side of the Ring shows. Chasing WWE instead of just existing and thriving as its own thing, right? And being extremely successful at it in the same time. And here's the thing, and I know Brian knows this. He has to know this. I'm pretty sure I've heard him said previously, talking about TNA, that he would rant about TNA, about trying to compete head-to-head with WWE instead of building its own identity. I am sure I've heard him say that before, years ago. He knows better, which makes this rant ring even more hollow. This win or lose, beat them or you're failing framing, it's an extreme. If you're not beating them, you're failing. That's absolutely preposterous. It wasn't even that rigid back in the Monday Night Wars itself. I like that AEW is its own thing, and that it's a big enough own thing that it's not like an obscure little corner of the fandom. That it does have a large chunk of mainstream wrestling fans watching it. You know, you can't say AEW is niche when it's on primetime cable television, you know, twice a week. Every time they've reached to do something closer to WWE, the product got worse, not better. Have you noticed that? Does AEW check every box right now? No. But it checks more boxes, with me, at the very least, than any other North American wrestling promotion. What Brian wants doesn't exist. And chasing it will only guarantee a worse overall show. And the reality of this is that what Brian wants already exists. And it's called WWE, and he loves it. The fans who want that don't need a second version of this. This is like the most basic argument of all time. There's no upside to AEW chasing those eyeballs. And we know that because AEW has tried before, and that didn't turn out great. So listen, criticize away. You know, I've got plenty of critiques in regards to AEW and the minutia of what they do on a weekly basis. I do a review, but I feel like mine are rooted more in wanting them to be more themselves, more unique, and not something else, which I feel is what Brian wants. And a lot of this, just to wrap this up here, a lot of this isn't really criticism, not genuine criticism anyway. What it actually is, in my opinion, to be clear, what it actually is Brian and a couple of other podcasters who've convinced themselves that if they complain loud enough and consistently enough, they can bend AEW into becoming the show they want it to be. And that's not analysis. That's someone upset that the show doesn't cater to their very specific vision, and they are so inflexible in their vision that they cannot accept that another vision just might be working. They're trying to strong arm another show into catering to them. And I find that irritating. That's what I find irritating, because there's a difference between here's what I would think would make it better and treating your podcast like a pressure campaign to reshape a company you don't work for. One is criticism, and the other one, well, you know, it's entitlement with a microphone. Pretty much, right? Look, I'm going to leave it at that. But there was there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of old mentalities here that still exist and ruin pro wrestling still today. This talk about needing to beat WWE, like that is 1998 loser shit. A ratings war that never concerned the fans in any which way. And it's loser shit to bring that up today. I feel a disconnect to the reality that is going on around you today. This desire to absolutely need them to defeat WWE in order to be successful, that's absolutely preposterous. See, this is how wrestling fans can perhaps be perceived as losers themselves, because we have a successful second product. Immensely successful. There are promotions that popped up between the end of WCW and the beginning of AEW that wanted to be that promotion that would be successful and whatnot, and they were considered successful, but at a even smaller fraction than what AEW is doing. AEW is immensely successful. And I wish people would stop trying to impose this fantasy condition that it would be the signal that AEW is indeed successful when it legitimately is right now. Wish we'd let go of the Monday Night Wars. I wish they'd go away forever. I really do. I really, really do. D. Owens, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. I want my top tier steak joint to beat McDonald's at selling burgers. I mean, that's always the example, right? That's always the example. You know, I want my local sandwich shop to beat Subway. All right. That's not what it is. So, Silver Apocalypse, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat as well. Also a member of the channel. I also think AEW should not even worry about WWE, and I think TK and AEW should focus on being the best they can be. And I think generally, that's what they're focused on. Generally, again, not necessarily, not universally, but generally. The Monday Night Wars ruined so many fans' brains, but he was equally as obnoxious with the beating and competing shit when he still watched AEW before going back to WWE full time. Good for him, though. Good for him for just like going back to his first love, you know, essentially. I'm not going to stand for a so-so main event on a random Dynamite. It's not exactly giving Howard Beale. Yeah. Yep. Pretty much. I don't think he watches. Look, I'm not going to say that Brian does this. I'm not. Big fucking preface here with big shining stars around it to make sure that you don't miss it, and it's highlighted in yellow, highlighter, because that's what you highlight with a highlighter. I'm not saying Brian himself does this, but I know for a fact that some of these people who review wrestling shows, a lot of them do it with the fast forward button, which is fine. Let's say if you're watching a very sports-based presentation in Japan and you just want to accelerate things because, you don't want necessarily to see the entrances and whatnot, that's fine. But when you're fast-forwarding through an American product that has things happening between the matches and you're just skipping over stuff, well, you are missing context. And sometimes then when you do your reviews or you write your reviews, and things start to become a little glaring. It's like, oh, wait a second. You're saying this, but it was obvious to the rest of us because this happened 10 minutes earlier or whatever. But I do know that happens, folks. Not everyone watches it live. A lot of people have a trigger finger on the fast forward. Let me tell you. Didn't Tony mention that the end of 2024, could be wrong on time, he decided to stop caring about WWE and focus strictly on AEW being as good as possible? It showed. It's the only focus he needs. It was something to that effect. I think it was towards the end of 2024, which is what he needs to do. Which is, yes, let WWE obsess over him. Just focus on doing your good thing. AEW's lowest points in 2023-2024 was when they were trying to beat WWE, when all those WWE writers were helping Tony book. The best thing Tony ever did was kick them out of the room. Yeah, I think it's a pitch room now. It's just like, bring your ideas to me, and if I like them, we're gonna use them, type of thing. We have Brian to thank for the rankings being turfed. Certain elements in the AEW office were sick about hearing about it. It sucks that his criticism yelling had that effect. I know. That is something that doesn't get passed around all that much, but I know it's things you hear, it's back channel talk and whatnot, and you sort of hear that go by. But yeah, I heard the same thing, that one of the main reasons that the rankings were killed was because eventually people in AEW kept going to Tony and saying, Alvarez is complaining again. And eventually Tony said, all right, let's just kill him. And that's a crying shame. That's a crying shame, because that was a differentiator. Anyway. What a great infinite never-ending over complaint then. AEW isn't big enough. It's the wrestling version of the world is about to end and you need to pray more. Have you ever noticed how much John Pollock misses on reviews? I'll be honest, I don't listen to John's reviews most because aren't they all paywalled or something? I think I don't know. See, that just goes to show you how much I know. I'd be surprised. I don't think John is a fast forwarder.
Show.
I would not accuse John of that. Anyway, not accusing anyone of that. That being said, thank you all very much for being here. This is our little startup segment here to get the blood boiling. Hey, if you enjoyed that, leave a like on the stream here. Share it out with your pals, your frenzies, all of the bozos you call your crew. Wow, Warren, you got very judgmental there all of a sudden. Well, it's my fucking stream. Okay. All right. I'm a pox on anyone who says that I don't come to these streams prepared. I am so prepared tonight. I am prepared so hard. I am prepared so incredibly hard. I even have, are you ready for this? I even have a presentation. I have a slideshow ready here. That's right. That's right. We're going to fire it up right here. And we're going to go right into this thing here. There we go. Look at that. Isn't this just gorgeous? This is coming through, right? Yeah, okay. Confirmed. Earlier today, the company known as Netflix put out its What We Watched report for the first half of 2026 last week. Every 6 months, in case you don't know what this is, every 6 months they open up the books, so to speak, and show hours and views basically for everything on the platform. So I figured, why don't we look at some of the numbers? Why don't I, get some number crunching going and take a look at WWE's part in all of this, since this is a professional wrestling podcast. Quick thing before the numbers start flying and whatnot, because it matters for everything that follows. Just to understand, when Netflix says views, okay, that doesn't mean necessarily a person watched something. Their actual definition of a view is the number of hours viewed divided by the runtime of the show. So it's a calculated number. It's an extrapolation. It's not specifically a head count. Okay, so keep that in your back pocket, because eventually it is going to matter. So if we start off, off the bat, and you wonder, well, okay, where does WWE rank in its top shows? That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked. I've got it all here set up for you. The top 10 globally, the top 10 shows globally this first 6 months of the year are, as you can see, well, depending, by views or by hours. Let's say we go by views. It's His and Hers, which is a limited series. Bridgerton season 4. I Will Find You, which is another limited series. Stranger Things season 5, still racking in the views. Runaway, another limited series. Teach You a Lesson, another limited series. I think these are Korean dramas. One Piece season 2, Man on Fire season 1, Ms. Rachel season 2, and The Night Agent season 3. And you'll see most of those things appear as well on the other side of the slide here, where you've got the whole setup by hours as well. It's basically the same shows, more or less, but in different positionings, right? So if you go by hourly consuming of content, by hours, it'll be Bridgerton season 4, then Stranger Things 5, Teach You a Lesson, His and Hers, One Piece. Can This Love Be Translated in number 6, which wasn't on the other side. Pursuit of Jade season 1, I Will Find You, Runaway, and The Night Agent season 3. So as you noticed, unquestionably, because you're very smart, there are no World Wrestling Entertainment programs added to either side, right? Neither show up because for some reason, Netflix counts every Raw and SmackDown and individually. It doesn't do like all the other shows and group them into seasons, into Bridgerton season 4 and whatnot, right? It's so what you have to do to figure this out, how it looks like for WWE, is you have to combine the numbers. So if you add up every single WWE show that aired on Netflix this half, every Raw, every SmackDown, every NXT, every PLE, WrestleMania, the whole 9 yards, you get about 297 million hours viewed, right? And if you sum up all 26 of Raw's episodes up to now, well, you get 79.9 million views. So if Raw was considered one season and everything was consolidated into one, they would actually be third on this list here by views. And per hours consumed, they'd be 13th. They wouldn't crack the top 10. So by views, they'd be in the top 5. They'd be number 3. But by hours, they wouldn't even be in the top 10. So that's 6 months of WWE programming. Every brand coming out to roughly 0.4% of everything watched on the platform. To put it in a different way, okay, Bridgerton season 4, one season, drew 889 million hours. So that's 3 times more than all of WWE combined. Man of Fire, a show that most of us haven't heard of, that I don't know what that is. It's sitting 8th on the chart, and it's nearly matching WWE's entire half-year output by itself. So if you rank every Raw episode by views, the 2 biggest weeks of the year are exactly what you'd guess. The night after WrestleMania on April 20th, and the first Raw of the year, the anniversary, the first year anniversary of Raw, both tied it at 3.7 million. And after that plateau, it's a plateau, I should say, through February and March, then a slow, steady bleed the rest of the way. But we're going to content ourselves with this for now. Now, here's a part that is very, very interesting to me. Because we got to start talking about, when we consider those numbers, we have to start talking about what Netflix is paying for this. And the reported deal for WWE's content, right? That's Raw plus international rights to SmackDown, NXT, and every PLE is $5 billion over 10 years. Okay. I think recently WrestleNomics bumped that number up to 550 million, something like that. But look, we're going to use the 5 billion just as a nice round number. Okay. That allows us to call this at this costing Netflix $500 million a year, every year for 10 years for content that by Netflix own standards isn't touching a fraction of a percent of the total viewing, which is the case of a lot of stuff on the platform, mind you, but it's still boggling to think it that way. So compare that to what these actual top shows are reportedly cost to make, okay? The Night Agent Season 3, the one that's actually sitting in the real top 10 by hours this half, runs an estimated $5 million per episode. So about $50 million for the entire 10 episode run. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a tenth of what WWE brings in a single year, and that's a show that actually made the top 10. Bridgerton, right? Apparently one of the most expensive shows on Netflix, runs somewhere between $7 to $8 million an episode. A full season is not even close to being $500 million. And it is dominating the charts. Their viewership. Stranger Things, which is Netflix's most expensive show, period, cost roughly about $270 million for the entire season at the height of its budget. So WWE is getting even more than that every single year for a show that can't out-hour or out-view content that costs a fraction of the price. And I have other comparisons here with One Piece. $144 million total for 8 episodes. And it's charted on both as well. And I'll go one further. I went through Netflix's own press release for this report, word for word, where they break the highlights down in there, and they're pushing forward the big performers. They're pushing forward like the shows, the highlights, whatnot. They talk about everything that needs to be under the spotlight, the things that are doing great for the platform. And of course, they talk about live events. They talk about the Kevin Hart comedy special. They talk about Alex Honnold's live climb, right? They talk about the BTS comeback stream. But nowhere in this press release are the 3 letters WWE even mentioned. They're nowhere. And WWE airs live 52 weeks a year on this platform, and it doesn't get mentioned once. Not as a top show, not even as a main event, not as a fandom highlight, nowhere. They didn't even mention WrestleMania. So you have to wonder, what is Netflix buying here? Because it's not hours. It's not views. It's not even a mention in their own highlight reel of a report that's specifically about what people watched. Whatever the actual value proposition is for Netflix in this deal, it's not showing up anywhere in the numbers they choose to share about themselves. I can already prep myself, and I already know what some folks could say here, saying that WWE is a global brand. It's a worldwide phenomenon, right? They're parroting what WWE likes to say. But of course the numbers are what they are because, Raw, yes, it has the distribution everywhere, but the PLEs are they're not available in the US, and Raw is available in Netflix in dozens of countries and whatnot. And yeah, Raw is already available, in the US and Canada and the UK and Australia and Ireland and Latin America and the list goes on. There's really a lot of countries who are carrying Raw. So this isn't some hypothetical about what would happen if Raw ever went global. It's already pretty much global. This is what global Raw looks like. And I know some of you are saying, yeah, but you're missing out some big markets like China and Japan and Germany. Those are big markets. They're not on that list. And of course, and then you say, well, the numbers would explode if those markets had access to WWE content. And I want you to hold that thought, because I want you to hold that thought, okay? Because here's the thing. SmackDown and NXT are pretty much everywhere Raw is available on Netflix, except in the US, where those shows are still tied up with the USA Network and the CW, right? And the premium live events, the pay-per-views, the PLEs, are available in a much wider footprint of countries than Raw, because many markets still have broadcast deals in place for the weekly shows, right? So there's some countries that still have not Raw, but SmackDown, NXT on broadcast deals, so aren't on Netflix. But the PLEs pretty much, they reach internationally a wider berth than SmackDown or NXT. So we've actually got two real existing international audiences to look at here. So we're not exactly guessing. SmackDown is averaging on Netflix right now 767,000 views an episode. That's under 1 million, folks. Not good math. Raw, despite having a smaller list of countries, is still averaging around 3 million views an episode over the same stretch, roughly 4 times higher. Now, I'll be fair. Raw and SmackDown aren't identical shows with identical decades of built-up audience. So, I understand that this is not an apples to apples necessarily reference, but maybe it's a Macintosh to a Granny Smith. It's the same fruit. Maybe the variety is different. Anyway, the real data comes from real global distribution, and it's not painting the picture of some massive worldwide audience waiting to be unlocked, if you look at it this way. If SmackDown, which is available on a global scale, is averaging less than 1 million per episode. And here's where this is where it gets maybe a little worse for the global phenomenon argument, because we don't have to stop at weekly shows. WrestleMania and Royal Rumble, which are the two biggest tentpole nights in WWE's entire calendar, are also part of that wider international footprint as well. And if anything, the pay-per-views, the PLEs, actually reach further than the weekly shows do. Countries like Japan, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and South Africa get WWE's premium live events on Netflix, even though they don't get the weekly shows there. So these tentpoles, if anything, are the most globally available WWE product Netflix has. So this is the moment WWE gets to prove the whole planet is watching, right? Right? Well, remember those countries people said would change everything? China, Japan, Germany. Well, Japan and Germany are already in here. They already get the WrestleManias and the Royal Rumbles on Netflix. So this isn't the excuse I feel people think it is. The Royal Rumble 2026. Look at, right here. 3.1 million views. WrestleMania 42. The two biggest nights of the year for WWE on their calendar. The thing that the entire promotion is built around, or should be anyway. 3 million views for night 1, 2.7 for night 2. There you go. The single biggest wrestling shows WWE put on all year, watched by the widest international footprint WWE has on its platform, including Japan and Germany, already land in the same range as an average Tuesday already range as an average Raw, I should say. I wanted to say Tuesday, but they're basically doing Monday night ratings. Now, of course, this is the rest of the world. This doesn't include the United States. And it only gets worse from here because the Rumble and Mania, as you can see with this graph right now, are outliers. Every other PLE in this half falls off a cliff. Elimination Chambers, the next one up, right? It's the fourth biggest PLE of the year so far. $1.9 million. Clash at the Castle, an event WWE ran in Italy. Specifically to grow the European audience, $1.6 million. Backlash, views. Backlash, 1.4 million people. Views, again, I should say, be careful of your language here, Warren. Night of Champions, barely 1 million. Less than a third than the Royal Rumble did. These aren't small regional shows. They're presented as can't miss premium shows, and once you get past the two biggest brand names on the calendar, the global audience goes poof. It evaporates. Now, before we go any further here, late this afternoon, Brandon Thurston at WrestleNomics dug into this same Netflix data and shared a few of his own thoughts. And I want to present this as a fair point going forward because, it's stupid to pretend that this doesn't exist. It's extra information that is very, very interesting. According to Brandon, most WWE PLEs actually had higher viewership in 2026 versus the year before, including WrestleMania, 13% up for night one and 7% for night two. But Thurston also flagged that the thing maybe complicating this increase is the fact that since September, well, it's VPNs essentially. Yeah, it's VPNs because since September 2025, as we all know, WWE PLEs off of Peacock and moved on to ESPN Unlimited, and getting access to that app costs like $30 a month. That's a real price jump from where Peacock used to sit. And Thurston makes the point then for VPNs that a jump like that a price jump like that could motivate some of the US audience to use a VPN, mask their locations, and then just watch PLEs on Netflix in whatever region Netflix carries them, right? And so if that's happening at any real scale, it would inflate Netflix's international PLE numbers with viewers who are actually sitting at home in Jersey or, Idaho or, Oregon. That one's a city. No, Oregon is a state. No, it's fine. Don't worry. I'm fine. Basically that's it. They'd just be sitting at home essentially, and watching it from the US. So, it could end up being not exactly a true big organic audience at all. So his framing, and I think this is the right way to view this, is that the degree to which people are using VPNs right now is anyone's guess. That's essentially it. But he also gives us something to actually keep an eye on. If VPN viewing is meaningful and it is distorting these numbers, we'd expect the year-over-year increases to shrink for events from September 25 onward, since the ESPN paywall was actually in place long enough to push people towards the VPN workaround. We're supposed to get that data early next year. So that's a real testable prediction if that happens. So we're going to keep an eye on that. And one more thing that Brandon also mentioned is that for the second year running, a single day of Royal Rumble outdrew either individual WrestleMania nights, which, I guess is surprising since Rumble is usually thought of as the clear number 2 show on the calendar behind Mania. So there you go. Credit to Brandon for adding this to it's as if he knew I was working on the story and he threw a little bone my way just to add a little more thought to the process here. But, there is real growth as we can see it now. WrestleMania 13 up one night, 7% the other. That's not significant. That's not insignificant. But we got to be honest about what growth actually is. We're talking about going from what, 2.6 or 2.7 million to 3 million? A 13% bump on a small number is still a small number. You know what I mean? And whatever the VPN piece of the pie turns out to be, and we genuinely don't know yet, we won't know for a while either, it doesn't change the actual conclusion here. Even with the growth, even being as generous as possible about it, WrestleMania and Royal Rumble are still landing in the same range as an average Raw episode. Just as simple as that. A supernova doesn't grow 13%. A supernova is already enormous. This is a modest growth off of a small base, and a modest growth off of a small base is still a small number. It doesn't touch the actual point, it doesn't touch the actual point. Whatever WWE is on Netflix is not the global phenomenon they present themselves as. So next time, you run into someone who tells you WWE is a true global phenomenon, ask them to explain it, because Netflix's own numbers across the widest international footprint WWE has on the platform on the two biggest nights of the year for the company, the number tops out. The highest number they record is 3 million for one specific night. And the other premium event this half couldn't even hold on to half of that. So whatever WWE's global reach actually is, it isn't showing up at tens of millions of eyeballs on the platform that's already carrying it into dozens of countries right now. Which is what a lot of people were saying was going to be the case. Now, before we get to the last point of my presentation, I want to get ahead of something, because there's a version of this that actually makes WWE look, that WWE can use to look good. And I want to be straight with you why I think it might be misleading. Raw airs weekly, so across 6 months, right? Well, so across the last 6 months, across the last 6 months, which is the period we're covering here, that's 26 episodes that are released in this window. If you add up those 26 episodes views, you get 79.9 million views, like we mentioned earlier. Stack that next to individual shows, and it ranks third globally, only behind Bridgerton season 4 and His and Hers. That sounds enormous, and if someone wants to throw that number at you, they're more than welcome to. It's legit, right? Remember what I said earlier about what Netflix defines as a view? It's not a person watched it. It's hours divided by runtime. So a view isn't a person. It's not even a device. It's a unit of math. It's an extrapolation. So Bridgerton and His and Hers rack up their view count from one piece of content with one runtime. Raw's 79.9 million is 26 separate episodes, each with its own runtime, each generating its own batch of views, added together after the fact. So it's not just an apples to oranges comparison. It's running the same formula 26 times and then acting like the sum means what it would mean if you'd only run it once. Same trick as saying if you add up every episode of a procedural that has been on for a decade, it beats most movies, right? Technically true, but we're not measuring the same thing. Hours viewed is the fairer test, because hours are the actual real number Netflix likes to measure and likes to tout before anyone divides it by anything. And hours tell you a completely different story. Add up those same 26 Raw episodes hours, and you get $150.8 million. Hours. Stack that against individual shows, and it ranks 47th globally. Not top 10, not even top 40. And here's the number that actually settles it. Take every single piece of WWE content aired all of this half year. Raw, SmackDown, NXT, the PLEs, the maximum possible aggregation of 6 months of wrestling programming, added all together into one giant number, 297 million hours. That ranks 13th overall. That's the best case, everything included. Throw the whole catalog added number, and it still doesn't crack the top 10. So depending which stat you reach for, the story can vary. Views make Raw alone look like a top 3 juggernaut. Hours make it clear that even every hour of WWE content combined doesn't touch the top 10. Hours viewed is the one that actually reflects people watching. So I think that's the one that we should focus on more. And this is, again, it's globally. You know, even if you want to look at the 79 million and you go, that's number 3 globally. Wow. You know, it's like, you know, WWE loves comparing themselves. And they love comparing themselves to the Super Bowl. We've heard this multiple times, that, you know, that WrestleMania, right? They compare the Super Bowl to WrestleMania. And WrestleMania is a cultural moment. It's appointment viewing on a global scale. So we can actually hold them to that standard here for a second. If you consider that the Super Bowl this year drew an estimated 125.6 million viewers in the US alone, one country, one night, you know, the second most watched Super Bowl in history. And if you consider that, you know, if you consider that the World Cup, at least in 2022, because we don't have like the final numbers yet for, you know, the finals just happened yesterday. Maybe by the time you listen to this, it's all been revealed. But the 2022 final between Argentina and France drew close to 1.5 billion people worldwide, right? And FIFA is like projecting some ridiculous number of 6 billion engagements for this year's tournament. I don't even know what that means, you know. For that what is an engagement? That's, you know, it's words at this point, right? We need to understand what they mean. You put these next to WWE's biggest night of them all, the WrestleMania. You know, this show that is part of a deal that Netflix is paying $500 million a year for. And you get 3 million on one night, you get 2.7 on the next one. And WrestleMania is supposed to be like, oh yeah, it's the Super Bowl of wrestling and so on and so forth. The Super Bowl did 125 million viewers in one country. The World Cup final does north of 1 billion across the planet. WWE's biggest night on Netflix doesn't even clear single-digit millions. Not saying that WWE needs to be the World Cup. Nobody's expecting pro wrestling to outdraw the biggest sporting event on the planet. But sometimes it feels like WWE is, or WWE likes to tell us that it is on that level, that it deserves to be in that conversation, and that it should be paid on that level as well. But they're not. They're not even in the same zip code. They're not even in the same planet, the same solar system. So it begs the question. Yes, there's growth. Year over year, observable. Is this growth sufficient for Netflix? Is Netflix satisfied with the results that they are getting, as middling as they are, for paying $500 million a year? Is this the returns that were expected? Is Netflix really satisfied with the amount of money that they're shelling out compared to the other productions that they're paying money out for that are doing 2.5, 3, 4 times the views or the hours from WWE and cost them a fraction of what WWE costs. And you can say, yeah, but Warren, it's content throughout the year, 52 years. This is not the same thing. That's an argument you can use for linear television, where you have time slots that you have to fill. And I think pro wrestling does an excellent job of that for a network to say for 52 weeks this year, I will be able to provide you with live original content nonstop without any issue. I'll be able to do that for you. So that has extreme value for linear television that has time slots that it needs to fill. But you're a streamer. You don't have time slots to fill. It's people sit down and pull up a thing and watch whenever they want. The really interesting questions to ask are the following. Does WWE generate does it generate subscriptions? When the transfer over to Raw was done, did they see a noticeable uptick in subscriptions to Netflix? That was important for them. The live watching numbers. This is the part that's really missing. How many people are still bound to this idea that Raw is appointment viewing, or that this is part of my habit? How many people are sitting down on Monday nights and watching this live? How many people are watching the pay-per-views live? These are numbers that Netflix 100% has, but is not disclosing. And that would be really interesting and important information to get as well. Because the idea of getting into live sports or live events is to draw an audience to come and sit down at a specific time and watch your thing at that very specific time. That's what it's for. That's why sports are so big right now. You can sell advertising, you can do this, you can do a bunch of things, right? So, that's all I'm saying. There's extra information here that would be really, really interesting to have, but we don't. But overall, you do have to wonder that this global imprint that WWE has, or that they purport to have, I think it's baloney. I think WWE's viewership is carried by the United States. Everything else is just like, it's sprinkles. It's, little additive, a little extra flavor, but it's nothing considerable. But you'd think it would be huge, would be, this tremendous thing. But you look at these numbers and you're like, no, this is, it's not small. It's pretty good, but is it worth $500 million a year? And that's legitimately the question you should be asking about this deal when you see these types of numbers. Anyway, there you go. Kristen Ashley, nice to see you, darling. Welcome to the chat. She's also a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. My God. Man on Fire is a series version of that Denzel movie. The Book of Elias? The Book of... Was it the Book of Elias? The Book of Jacob? That film? Or the one where he loses his memory? Or American Gangster? Is that the one? It's a movie about American Gangster. I could watch that. Hikaru, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. It also happens to be a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. How many more hours of WWE programming is there compared to any other show on Netflix? Feels like they should dwarf anything else just from viewable hours. Quite possibly. And I think that also plays against them at the same time with the way Netflix counts views. I think that might also be the reason why they keep them all separate. Probably looks better overall. My casual lapsed friends are always more likely to mention the Rumble. I think everyone who's ever watched a Royal Rumble, because Royal Rumble goes, oh yeah, that's the one, you throw each other over the top rope, and it's very, for a casual viewer, I think it's very easy to get into, and you're just like, hey, yeah. Every TV partner ends up regretting getting in bed with WWE. I mean, isn't it fascinating that Netflix didn't even mention them in this press release that they put out? Don't you think it's fascinating? I think it's fascinating. It's very reminiscent of the Fox deal, if you ask me. Yeah, I knew I'd run out of water. So what I'm going to do, because my mouth is very pasty right now, I'm going to go fill up my water bottle. We'll be right back. Don't go away. We're going to be talking about Paramount very quickly, and we're going to catch up on some news. Sammy Guevara, Keith Lee, got that on the docket still. Here, let me pull up let's return to the docket. Why don't we? We'll just head back to the docket so you'll see what's coming up. See, I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up, guys. We'll talk about it in a second. I'll be right back. Okay, back in a flash. I know. I hate doing it, but I was very, very thirsty. Like in many other circumstances, I would have toughed it out, but I was just so thirsty. I had to have something to drink here. I even got, I filled up my water bottle in my fridge. It's like, ooh, there's a buble. I'm going to have a buble. I got water in the buble. The buble is water. All right. So, there's the Paramount thing. Why don't we change gears a little bit instead of talking about more business here? Let's lighten things up a little bit. Let's talk about Sammy Guevara here. We'll read this article here that I pulled up on wrestlingnoticias.com. That's, of course, it's an aggregator that has that shows us that currently Corona, you can get Corona, a case of 28 Corona at Sobeys or at Safeway for $58.99. I look at these prices, man, and I'm like, so glad I don't drink as much anymore. For real though. So there's some speculation right now about Sammy Guevara's future in AEW after a fairly calculated change to his social media has occurred. We'll read this article here to give us the context. The former TNT champion removed any mention of the company from his bio on X then drew attention to the change with a short post, new bio, on Instagram. His bio now reads simply, world champion, husband, father, and professional wrestler. Despite the move, there is no confirmation that Guevara has left AEW or is about to. His name remains on the company's official roster, where he's still listed as a member of La Facción Ingobernable. The change comes just days after Guevara expressed frustration with how he had been used on television, asked by Muscle Man Malcolm when he would return to Dynamite. That's the Waffle House guy, right? Very serious podcast to do. Anyway, Guevara said this, quote, tell Tony, honestly, man, that's obviously not my call, but whatever they decide to call, I think the last time I was on AEW, I wrestled Darby for the world title. I was given a couple of hours notice, and I just tried to do the best that I could, you know? Anytime I go out there, I try to give a show like you've never seen before, because that's what I do. That's what I do. I'm Sammy Guevara, the Spanish God. I think I'm the best. So Guevara has not wrestled on Dynamite since a January 7 loss to Bandito. His last appearance in an AEW ring, however, came on the June 6th episode of Collision, when he, Rush, and Dralistico fell to the conglomeration in a match for the AEW World Trios Championship. On June 26th, Guevara and the Beast Mortos also dropped the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship to Mystico and Mascara Dorada, ending a 203-day reign. So, yeah. No, I've never been to a Waffle House. There's nothing. No, I've never been to a Waffle House. There is no Waffle House order. These ads are really bad, aren't they? Go away. There we go. That's better. So Sammy, yeah, listen, I don't know how to exactly break this down other than this could be real, just like it could be an absolute and total work. Look, you know, this is the kind of thing that Sammy does, and then people talk about it, like myself, and then his name gets out there and he feels good about himself because people are talking about him, right? And I guess that's kind of a gauge as to, you know, whether people want him to leave AEW or not. It's like, oh no, Tony, sign him back. You can't let him go. No. I don't know who's saying that, quite frankly. Like, who in 2026 is saying, no, Sammy Guevara has to absolutely stay in AEW, right? I'm not saying that the guy should lose his job. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying in the audience, in the crowd. Like, Sammy is unfortunately one of these guys that I think the company has just passed him by. I think like he belongs in an other era of AEW. I think there was a time where he filled a very specific niche in the company, you know, let me say that in another way. He played a very, very particular role in the company. You know, he was the young, cocky heel that had, that had tons of potential and had a good look and, you know, and could do some crazy things in the ring. But then others also came along to do that and maybe had a little more upside than him. You know, I always thought Sammy was a nice little worker. He was a good, you know, he was a good high flyer. He'd do some crazy stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, what does, you know, I always thought that he was fairly limited. I didn't think his ceiling was as high as a lot of other people said it was. You know, when they pulled him out as well, he's one of the 4 pillars of AEW. I was like, really? Really? Okay, sure. I mean, maybe at the time you're like, yeah, okay. But as the roster improved and diversified and got better, and then, you know, Sammy got sidelined for multiple reasons. Well, I think just naturally the promotion got better. I think overall the roster improved. And you sit back and you look at the roster today and you're like, well, where does Sammy Guevara fit in this? He just comes across as one of these acts, these wrestlers in AEW where the promotion has just passed him by. I've been seeing polls go around Blue Sky, some polls, people doing polls, asking stuff like, who's your least favorite wrestler in AEW? And most people respond with Sammy Guevara. And I'm like, Sammy's not even on AEW anymore. And people are still like, no, I fucking hate this guy. And he's not even on TV anymore. Like, people have come around on Jericho more so than, they're more lenient towards Jericho, who is back on weekly TV, as opposed to Sammy Guevara, who is never on weekly TV. He's a pillar like Red Hulk is a Marvel pillar. Look, I think this is a guy who would benefit from leaving the coop and going to do his own thing. I really do. I think, look, he's wrestled multiple times in Arena Mexico. I think he has the perfect vibe as a rudo, as a gringo rudo. I think he's got the perfect vibe. He's shown it. I think he's perfect. Like, they hate him in Arena Mexico, but in the good way. They hate him, but in the good way. CMLL could be a landing place for him. You don't wish this necessarily on anyone, but if he ended up, let's say, in TNA, I think he'd kill. He'd be great in the place, and then elevate his stock and move on to something else, something bigger and better. Maybe return to AEW, or like a Mike Santana. He's like, well, elevates his game, and next thing you know, he's about to debut in WWE. I don't know. At this, like, if I were him at this stage, I would absolutely move away from AEW and go try my luck somewhere else. I would go try to find extra footing in my career, but in another promotion, doing other things. I think it's not going to get any better for him. Unless they're about to uncork like the greatest the greatest creative idea of all time, and Sammy's going to be the beneficiary of probably the greatest push any AEW wrestler has ever had. Hey, just go try your luck somewhere else, buddy. I don't know. It feels like AEW is sort of it's turned into a bit of a dead end. I think he's typecast. And look, he wouldn't go on an interview, and when asked, when are you going to be back on TV? Then goes, ask the boss. That sounds like frustration to me. That sounds like frustration. Well, anyway, we'll keep an eye on this, but this could also just be absolutely nothing at all. And, just adding some noise, some speculation, and next thing you know, he's going to re-sign for another couple of years. Because there's one thing, too, that I often say, and that is that, Tony Khan is going to be very loyal to the people, the wrestlers, the talent, who have been there since the start, and especially were very present and available and ready to go, ready to work during the pandemic. He's going to be very, very good with those people, because in a lot of ways he feels like he owes them some gratitude for doing what they did. You know, coming into work despite it all and putting in effort in a period of pro wrestling history that was extremely difficult. I think I think that's something that we always have to keep in mind, and Sammy would be one of those. I think Sammy Guevara would be one of these recipients of the Tony Khan contract for life, I guess. Then again, Sammy has had, a behavioral history, let's put it that way, in the company as well. So, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how things go. He could become Sammy G and carry a saxophone around. That's a tremendous. We're so close to it too. All he needs is the sax. That's all he needs. Sammy Guevara needs to be the first dual contracted wrestler for AEW and The Crash, which is ran by Conan. Well, then of course he's going to go in, because Conan is going to stick it to Tony Khan again. I'm going to take all your talent away, Tony. What goes around comes around. It's karma, or whatever it is he said. Whatever it is, whatever it was that he was tweeting, talking about, whatever. Remember, Warren, WWE reportedly had no interest in bringing in Jungle Jack Perry. Well, they didn't. I used to enjoy Sammy. He seemed like an interesting up-and-comer, but then he just stagnated, which can be said about a few younger talents in AEW. The thing that we have to remember about, or keep in mind, at the very least, about Sammy Guevara is that he's older than everyone. I think a lot of people realize. He is currently 32 years old. So 8 years ago, he would have been 24, right? So now he's like 32. So technically, like, he should be kicking in his prime at this point, right? But I agree, he sort of hit a ceiling at the same time. But we got to keep in mind, like, he's not a young up and comer anymore. Like, he's, this is it. Like, this is the bit where you're supposed to consolidate everything you have to make a spot for yourself. Sammy's status with the fan base is 20% down to the proposal and its fallout, 80% down to being repeatedly turned face, heel, face, heel, face. Sure, that didn't help. I agree. When he should just be a heel. For some reason, at some point, Tony Khan was convinced that we were going to buy Sammy Guevara as a babyface, and I don't know why. He's a natural heel. Sammy's like Britt. Looked good in the early small pond AEW, floundered when the talent improved. Not as bad as Britt, though. Like Britt, yeah. And I throw Sheeta into that bit as well. Talking about, but look, you all know I'm not a fan. Everyone knows. You should know this by now of me. I'm not a Hikaru Shida fan. You want to talk about someone who really benefited from a shallow talent pool? Of course, Britt is the most glaring example. She gets into a ring with Mercedes Moné and fucking stinks up the joint with Mercedes Moné. Like, what the fuck? Look, on Thursday, we are going to be previewing the AEW pay-per-view. Not tonight. But I can't help myself because we mentioned Hikaru Shida. Chat. Are you all as worried as I am for this Hikaru Shida Maya World match? Because I'm pretty worried. Pretty worried, chat. I don't know who decided that this was going to be a good idea. But it's keeping me from sleeping at night. No, maybe not that bad. But I'm a little apprehensive. Sheeta fans will tell me, there's no problem. Sheeta's great. Oh, well. Can't imagine we'll get that much time, and my expectations are so low. Could get worried if I tried. I'm still worried. I'm still worried. You'll be fine. This is basically a 3.5 match at best, 2.2 to 2.25 at worst. I don't know if it'll. I don't know if that can Shida have a 3.5 star match. Like for me, a 3.5 star match is like a really good match. That's a good, solid, fun match. You know, good stuff. Then you move on to 3 3/4, where there I'd usually say, "Oh, that was a very, very good match. Can you believe it?" type of thing, you know. And then when you get into 4, moving forward, then we're talking. Then we're in excellence territory. You know, 3.5 is a good, solid, positive rating. It's a high bar for. It's a high bar for Ms. Shida. Dead to 3 is this. I mean, I'm just worried. I'm just worried. You know, I feel like I had said that it was important after the pay-per-view that Maya World get. My dog is barking for some reason. Juno. Okay? You barking at the wind again? Yeah. Yeah, she's all right. Yeah, the dog is upset at my. She's like, stop talking about Sheeta like that. All right, fine. We'll save it for Thursday. We'll save it. That was your little preview for the preview of AEW Redemption this Thursday on stream. This will be the last thing we talk about before heading out. Keith Lee. There was a little update that popped up last week that we're coming around to here about the status of his wrestling career. We'll read this article off the Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer. There's no definitive word on Keith Lee's status, but within the industry, it is believed he might have already wrestled his last match. Lee, 41, remains under contract with All Elite Wrestling, but has not wrestled since December 2023. He was forced out of action due to injury at that time, but stated in summer 2025 that his health had been good for a while. With news coming out today being the 14th of July, that Lee and Mia Yim are divorced, Brian Alvarez spoke about Lee on Wrestling Observer Live and shared the latest that he's heard. Alvarez said that while he does not personally know anything about the situation, people in wrestling think Lee is done competing in the ring. This is Alvarez's quote here. Everyone has been asking what's going on with Keith Lee. Is he ever coming back to AEW? And are we ever going to get that match with Swerve Strickland? Well, all I can tell you is that, this has been discussed within the business. Obviously, with this news coming out as well, there's been a lot of talk about Keith Lee over the last couple of days. I'm not saying this 100%, okay? I'm not saying this 100% because I don't know, but from talking to people, the belief within the business is that Keith Lee is done. And we're not talking like, when he's done with AEW, if that ever happens, he'll go elsewhere. It is believed that he is just likely retired. Yim posted that while she and Lee are no longer a couple, they remain friends and will have love for each other. Lee himself has not posted on social media since September 2025, which is the same month he tweeted that he would, quote unquote, certainly be making an in-ring return, but didn't know how or when it would happen. The most recent report on Lee's status came from Fightful Select, who wrote this June that AEW had discussed a potential Lee return a number of months ago, but the report said Lee has not been backstage at AEW shows, and it's not known if he was even made aware of the idea for his return. At least, as of now, nothing has come of it. So, that's distressing news. That's not, that's not something fun you want to necessarily hear. That a guy is retiring like quietly, like he's done with wrestling. Look, wrestling retirements are what they are, right? Of course, it is what it is. But in Keith Lee's circumstance, there's always been this overarching question about his absence from wrestling being related to his health and his status, whether he's just plain old healthy and able to do it, right? So in this circumstance, if this report turns out to be true, is this a type of forced retirement where it's like, look, my Keith Lee's health condition has gotten to the point where he just cannot consider going back to wrestling because of how poor his health is, and he has to just consider that his last match was his last match. And that kind of sucks. Keith Lee is not going to pretend like he's, that he's shed this mortal coil or anything. Keith Lee is a guy who has been, who has always attracted a large number of followers. When he finally started up at NXT, I think a lot of people sort of discovered the wonder that was, this huge guy, the limitless aspect of Keith Lee. And people were very excited to see what he'd be able to do, like on the bigger wrestling stages in North America. And of course, the WWE run ended the way it did. So when he ended up in AEW, I think it got people doubly excited, because then it sort of felt like, well, maybe we can get the PWG Keith Lee to sort of light it up in AEW. And that quite never happened for circumstances, I guess. But, his absence and the secrecy around it has always been, I don't want to say curious because he's entitled to his privacy, but has been unusual when it comes to wrestlers missing time. And he's been just a couple of posts saying, he clearly wants to return to wrestling. He's out there, about 7 months ago on social media, typing out, I'll certainly be back. Well, there's a desire for him to go back to wrestling and do it again. The question is, can he do it? And it seems like more and more, the answer seems to be no. Whatever it is that's holding him down is compromising the rest of his career moving forward. And that kind of sucks. As a fan, I would like to be able to appreciate. I would like to be able to appreciate the man's to appreciate the man's career if it is indeed come to an end. Or if not, well, whenever he's ready to come back, I'll be very interested to see. At the same time, the interview said it, right? He's 41 years old, hasn't wrestled since 2023. Holy cow. Like that's going to be a hell of a hurdle to overcome. Like, I don't know, like it's not looking good. You know what I mean? And I don't want to doom and gloom. That's the last thing I want to do. And I'm definitely not insinuating that, he's in an absolute worst case for his life type scenario. That's absolutely not what I'm doing here. But, if he, it feels like it's a situation where the will is strong, but the body is weak. And that really sucks. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what comes next for Keith Lee. But whatever's going on, we wish him luck. We send him good vibes, and hopefully he will find the necessary to get the peace and the resolution in all of this that he wants, more so than what Warren Hayes the fan wants. That's the most important thing. Swerve in your glory walked so that Brodito could run. There you go. Indy Keith Lee and Dijak felt like can't miss stars. Dijak was incredible too, right? Dijak, Donovan Dijakovic, right? That guy ruled. Wonder what happened to him. Didn't he have the COVID really bad at one point? I feel like everything regarding his health status has been mostly mysterious. Don't you guys and gals and non-binary pals find? It's either been like something, I've heard rumors about his heart, and there's been all sorts of stuff. I did hear the COVID thing, and let's say, because I'm talking from experience here, but let's assume that his, let's say he does have a heart condition. Well, a thing like COVID can absolutely aggravate it. Absolutely 100%. Feels like Keith Lee, Britt Baker, and some Guantanamo Bay guests should have been out of contract years ago. Britt is the most fascinating part here. Like there's, every time we talk about Keith Lee, there's always like a thing where he's, there's always something about his health where that's always like in the back of your mind, where it's like, there's just this one thing, and maybe AEW is providing treatment. Like, we don't know. Like, you could just sit here and speculate, and cause we just don't know. We just don't know what's going on. But Britt is a fascinating story. Britt, we just don't know. And this is someone who has completely erased herself from public view, and this was someone who would post quite a bit, right? She's been completely absent for TV for years at this point. Although, didn't she show up on a picture with CM Punk at a Fanatics event? Didn't I see that on the Instagram? And I'm like, that's a great troll. Good job, Britt. It'll get all the right people angry and the right people hopeful. He did mention a life-threatening event after leaving the Fed, but he's always been mysterious about everything, which is fine. Like that's the thing, is that we're sitting here speculating, and we're just like throwing shit around. But, I'm not like trying to dig into his medical history and wanting absolutely to know. He can keep whatever information he wants to keep private. He can do, that's entirely his prerogative. If he never wants to talk about his health condition, all the more power to him. That's fine. We'll just sit here and wonder, it'll just be one of the great mysteries of pro wrestling, if anything, what the fuck ever happened to Keith Lee? That's all. That's it. Britt shot on Serena Deeb on live TV, and Tony Khan said, "We're done here." I mean, Britt had a reputation, okay? And I think most of what's out there that I heard of was true. And she ended up pissing off a lot of people she shouldn't have, I think. And I think she was already on thin ice at that time. So when she decided to reject the creative live on TV, I think there were people who were like, okay, no, that's fine. We're not dealing with this again. You know, wasn't there a promo at some point where Britt Baker talked about this, you know, the women's division being hers and so on and so forth? You know, wasn't there that wasn't that a thing? She wasn't kidding, because in her mind, the women's division in AEW was her thing, and everything ran through her. I think this is, you know, I think ultimately she was someone that was very, very anxious about her spot. If anything, okay, and this is again like just shooting this shit here with the boys kind of thing. I think that Britt probably realized how overall limited she is and got really anxious at the idea of more ladies joining the division. And, you know, whether as unconscious or conscious it was, she just saw her, you know, everything that she had be, you know, in danger. And I think that, you know, I think one of the reasons that Jamie Hayter and her got heat down the line is related to that. Related to Britt seeing that Jamie was overall more well-rounded and talented than she was, and she saw Jamie as a threat and wanted to keep her as her heater. But Jamie was like, no, I'm gonna break through and I'm gonna be a star. I'm gonna be a single star myself. And I think that caused that's one of the things that caused a rift. I think it's just Britt is just someone that was really, really insecure about her spot. That would be my analysis from afar, from picking up all the cues and the stuff that, you know, we all know on social media and reports and observer reports and whatnot. That's what I think. And there's, you know, I think her divorce, her separation, because they were not married, right, from Adam Cole. I think that was another breaking point. Because I don't know if a lot of you, I don't know if you all realize just how well liked Adam Cole is in wrestling locker rooms. He's a very, very, very nice person, apparently. Very well liked. So, you know, the separation and the things that happened around it and whatnot didn't necessarily endear her. You know, it should have nothing to do, like, you know, you could say, in fact, it shouldn't have anything to do, her breaking up with her boyfriend shouldn't have anything to do with her status at work, right? And I agree with that, but to a degree. Because if, let's say you're in an environment where you work with a couple, right? And the couple divorce or split up, you know, and it ruins the vibe at work, you know, when they're on shifts together, things are tense, or, you know, things get maybe worse than tense and whatnot. If it becomes heavy within the company, then it becomes problematic and something has to be done about it. If it's ruining the day of people who are at work that just want to punch in and punch out and, you know, have a not miserable day at work type of thing, you know, so not saying that, so, you know, someone has to lose their job over, breaking up with someone. I'm just saying that maybe in the atmosphere that it creates afterwards, that's more the issue more than anything else. I still can't imagine the nicest guy in wrestling playing some Kirby and then listening to DMD bitch about everyone backstage. Some guys are just good listeners. Some guys are just really, really good listeners, I guess. Oh, brother. Anyway. Cheers. Did you guys see Scotty Riggs posted a pic of him with Adam Cole and Britt Baker? No. Recently? Like a recent picture? Well, yeah, like 1 day ago. Look at that. Good for them. Good for everyone there. Scotty Riggs going around getting the mark picks now. Good for him. whole Brit asked him for $20 after the picture. There you go. We're gonna wrap it up for tonight. Thank you for the good job. I appreciate it. Thank you for the good job. I appreciate it. Thank you. But thank you. Good job to you all for hopping in here this evening for another live stream. So I'll be back tomorrow to do the night 4 recap of the G1 Climax 36. That'll be exciting. Night 4. So we'll be doing that tomorrow, and then we'll be back Thursday once again with another AEW Dynamite review, with another live stream as well, and of course the Mr. Warren Hayes Show proper, which will be available on your favorite podcast application. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. I appreciate it tremendously. You are all wonderful, beautiful, smart, brilliant people. The A+ audience to this D-list podcaster. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy it. Stay alive. I'll see you next time.